we talk about job production, we are talking about customized, of course, one-off products. So the example is of a birthday cake or even a dental treatment. Why we have such examples because for the cake, right, your birthday is coming up. You want to ensure that you go in to make your order, you have your preferences because believe it or not, everybody have their own preference, right? So even though I might like chocolate cake, you like vanilla, I probably like chocolate with a little strawberry as what we have here. You might have a different preference, right? So you're gonna go and make your order depending on your like. So that's what we're really talking about when we talk about job production. It is found both in the manufacturing and the service industries because we can look at services. Say for instance, you should go to a spa. You're not gonna take everything that they have listed there. So depending on what is it that you go to the spa for, relaxation of course, you want to ensure that it is up to your liking. So which one of those items there that you want to experience then, right? So remember now this is for you. The experience is for you as the customer, all right? So that's for job. So please remember job production, we're talking about one-off product. This is unique to you, the customer. It usually involves producing custom work such as one-off, and we mentioned that earlier. Because number of units produced is small, production process is highly labor intensive. So because it's a case where you don't have a lot of work coming in, because remember now, you're looking at the cake, you have to ensure that you complete that particular cake for your customer before you can move on to another one. So you want to ensure that the process for one job is completed before moving on to the other one. The workforce usually skilled craftsmen. So because you know that we're looking at unique products, customized, you want to ensure that the workers that you have in your company, they can do the job. They're qualified to do it. They're skilled workers. So you don't want to get somebody who cannot design the cake as what your customer would have recommended that they wanted. You want to ensure that these persons, they are very much skilled and they can complete the task. So that at the end of the day, your customers, they're satisfied. Many small businesses start this way. So you can look at a lot of different large organizations. Like let us look at Coca-Cola, for example, right? They never started as batch, right? So a lot of these big or large companies, they started off small, just doing a one-off thing, a one-off product. And then after, they would have ventured into something else. All right, so that's for job production. We're going to be looking now at some of the advantages because remember in businesses, we have our pros, we have our cons. So we have our advantages. We're going to be looking at disadvantages as well. So some of the advantages for job production can produce unique one-off. Specification can constantly be modified. And as you can see, I keep referring to unique one-off products because for job production, I want you to remember, hence I'm emphasizing on that term. All right. So the other advantage we have here, workers more likely to be motivated. And I wonder why. Tasks require a high degree of skill and expertise, work more demanding and interesting. Why is it that you want to do more work? I don't understand that. But for job production, this is something that you love, right? So it's not going to be a bother to you. It's not going to be boring. Every day you're going to wake up, you're going to be so excited because guess what? I have that designer dress that I need to finish for my customer. So this is something you love. You put your all into it. So you want to ensure that at the end, when I complete that task, my client can say, wow, I am impressed. I love this. So just the reward that you get from providing such service or good, then you're going to be so enthused to be a part of the task. All right. The organization is simple. Communication, coordination, supervision, and inspection can be carried out. So because you're not working with a lot of job to do on a particular day, you don't have this cake to complete today, you don't have another dress to do, you're just focusing now on the cake for today, you want to ensure that you complete that, then probably when you have completed tomorrow so forth, you focus on the designer dress, right? So you're not doing different tasks, you're just doing one task at any given time. Let us look now at some disadvantages, because mentioned earlier, we have our advantages and we do have some disadvantages. Labor costs may be high, may be expensive to buy all tools and equipment necessary, because you're looking at a one-off task, right? So therefore, you're gonna have to spend more money on the different tools that are required, the different equipment that you're gonna have to use, right? So you wanna ensure that, okay, even though this is a one-off job, at the end of the day, you want to ensure that the customer is satisfied. So you're going to have to ensure that you have the tools, because without the tools, you cannot do your job, right? Good. So you want to ensure that you have it. So even though that is a part of completing the task, it is seen as a disadvantage because you're going to have to spend more money. So the higher the tool or the more expensive, the more money is going to come out of the business, right? So that's a disadvantage. Lead times can be lengthy. Selling costs may be high. Once demand for a firm's product rises, job production may become costly. Firms may prefer to use a method more suited to producing large quantities. So when we look at these disadvantages, we can see here that we mentioned earlier that a lot of companies, they started off using job production, but eventually you know that you have to look into the finances of the company now. So you're going to have to make your decision. Is it that this type of production we can no longer afford to be a part of it? Do we need to venture into another production? So you're going to have to think about all these things, because at the end of the day, if it is that you're making a loss, you're going to have to change around things so that you can continue to grow. All right? So these are some of the disadvantages for job production. But before we even move on to another production method, let us look at this trivia question. So I hope you're paying attention. I hope that you would have learned something about job production so that you can answer this question. So let us look at the question. Job production means A, producing similar products together, B, made on a production line, C, made using one skill, or D, a product is made individually from start to finish. So let me hear the answer. Okay, go ahead, let me hear you. The answer is D. Very good, very good. So job production means a product is made individually from start to finish. Because remember, earlier we mentioned that this is a one-off product, so you want to ensure that you complete that particular task that you have before you move on to another one. So from start to finish. Awesome, very good. You are paying attention. Let us now move on to the other type of production, batch production. Used when demand for a product is regular rather than a one-off. An example might be a bakery producing bread. So remember, we looked at job production and we use that term one-off product. This is different now for batch production. The production is broken down into a number of operations. And you can see on the screen here we have a bread, right? A picture of a bread, a brown bread. So why is it that we have this here? Anybody know? Why would it be affiliated with batch production? Let me hear the answers. Awesome. All right, so because we are in the bakery, we're making different breads. We're doing them in batches. So we have white bread, we have brown bread, and we have other ingredients that would add to the bread to, you know, kind of spice up things a little bit, so persons who probably don't like the white bread, they can venture into something new, right? So we're doing these now in different batches. So we're completing the brown bread After completing those batches, then we're going to move on to do the white bread. So for persons who might not like the brown bread, they have a preference here to buy one of the white bread there. So we're completing these goods in different batches. So you have to ensure that you complete the brown bread first before you can go and do the white, because the ingredients are going to be different. All right, so we're looking at batch production, doing items in different batches. A particular operation is carried out on each batch before moving to the next step. Because remember now, this is batch we're talking about. We're doing them in different batches. We have different levels. So remember, for the different equipment that we're going to be using, the different machines, you want to ensure that you move from machine 1 over to machine 2. So we're talking about machines. So remember now, for MOB unit 2, you're looking into the factory. Because remember, we're working with machinery, we're working with equipment, so we're in the factory, we're producing, we're making goods now for you, the customers, right? So you want to ensure that the layout of your office or for the factory, it is up to par with what you need to complete. So you cannot want to do the bread and machine 1 is all the way over in the corner. So you have to move from there to all the way over here for machine 2. You don't want to do that. So the layout process is very important when you look at batch production. So all the machinery that you will be using, they should be up to par in the different places, right? So you want to look at that. A great number of products are produced using this method, particularly in the manufacturing of components and in food processing. So we're looking at pastries in a bakery. So we just remember now, students, we just want to know that for batch production, you're making more than one good this time, because remember, for job production, we are focusing on one item. That's not the case for batch. We're doing the items in different batches. All right, so we have a little variation, as I mentioned, about the brown bread versus the white bread. So you want to ensure that you complete a batch before you can move on to the other batch. All right? We're going to be looking at advantages now of the batch production. Flexibility. Each batch can be changed to suit customer requirements. What do they mean by this? Anybody know? Because we're looking at batch. What do you mean by flexibility? Ah, very good. So because of the brown and the white bread, remember the example I used earlier? So you're focusing now on making the brown bread for those customers who are coming in to purchase that. You don't want to make it be a case where you're going to mix up the ingredients. No, you want to ensure now that you have your brown bread, you have your white bread. So you have your different customers coming in to purchase. So you want to ensure that you're providing for your customers, they're satisfied. So you have whatever it is that they need. So that's the variation now for batch production. Employees can concentrate on one operation rather than whole tasks. So remember, with job production, you can only focus on one item at a time. That's not the case for the batch production, right? Because you're going to have a lot of different persons working with a specific machine for this task now. So you're going to have person A doing what they need to do. So let us look at Coca-Cola, right? So in order for you to fill the bottles, the process that you need to go through. So of course you're going to have a machine and you're going to have the human there to assist, right? So you're going to have the machine with the bottle. Then you're going to run it through an assembly line, of course, and then you're going to fill with the Coca-Cola. After you fill the bottles, then you're going to cork it, of course, and then you're going to put on the packaging, right? So that's the process there to fill. So you cannot cover the bottle before you fill up the bottle. So that's really the process that you're looking at for the batch production. Stocks of partly finished goods can be stored and completed when demanded by individual customers. So because you're not looking at a unique product, so you don't know if somebody else gonna like this product, you have it now at your advantage because you're looking at creating goods in batches. So if it is you have leftover ingredients, right, stock, what you can do now is to store those. So for future, you will have that. So if customers, you realize that, okay, you have something new on the market, customers are loving this, so you have the stock already at your hand, so you can prepare more in batches for your customers. So that's an advantage there for your batch production. Let us move on now to the disadvantages. Careful planning and cooperation required, or machines may lie idle. Anybody understand what we mean by this? Go ahead. Awesome. All right. So because we're looking now at, in the factory, of course, we're working with machines. So remember now, machines are there to make life easier for us, to make the work easier and finish faster, of course. But we as humans, we have to navigate. We have to ensure that we're there to basically tell the machine what to do, right? Because we can't allow the machine to do things on their own. So they need the human labor right there. So you have to bear in mind now that if it is a case where you don't press a button and say, okay, you need to fill, then what is going to happen? You're going to have a backtrack there. So the machine is waiting until you, the human, press that button, and then the continuous flow of the tasks at hand there. All right, so that would be a disadvantage if you don't know what you're doing. You just step aside for a second, thinking that the machine can carry out my task. No. All right, workforce may be less motivated due to repetition. So let us look at job production versus batch. You know that for job production, this is something that you love to do. So you're not going to be bored of doing it, right? But for batch production, no, just pretend that you're in the factory, right? Think about it. You're filling the bottles. How interesting can that be? Would that be interesting for you? Not for me either. All right, so you're just doing things over and over again. So every day you come to work, you're doing the same thing. And I'm sure that at the end of the day, you want to feel satisfied. You want to feel accomplished. So things that, you have a passion for, things that you love waking up to do, then you're going to be more enthused to do that. So for batch production, it's going to be a little bit repetitive for you, and it can lead to boredom. All right? A lot of money could be tied up in work in progress. What do we mean by work in progress? Anybody know that term? Let me hear the answer. Awesome. So work in progress here we're talking about, remember we talk about the stocks, right? So we're going to have goods stored away, of course, in case our customers call in and they need some order right now. So we have it at hand to complete for them. So it's a case now where we're looking at storage. So for those stocks, we're going to have to ensure that we have somewhere to store them, of course, right? But we have to think about the cost for that, right? So it's going to be more out of our pocket to pay for storage. If it is a case where it's a case where we're going to have the stocks in the storage and customers not coming in, because at times we as customers, we do change our mind about certain things, right? So we want to ensure that we don't have too much so that we're going to have to pay for additional storage and it's going to cost us in the long run. All right, so those are some disadvantages of batch production. We have another trivia here for you. Which of these is a disadvantage of batch production? A, storage is necessary, raising costs. B, some variety of product. C, workers can become more specialized. Or D, production costs would be lower. Which one of these you think would be a disadvantage for batch production based on what we would have completed? I'm hearing the answer. Very good. So the answer here would have been A. Why is A the answer? Why is that a disadvantage? All right, so because for storage, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to need storage, we're going to need space for the partly finished goods that we have in stock, right? But in order for us to think about that, we're going to have to think about money because we're going to have to pay for the storage there. So that is going to be a disadvantage to the business. So extra money coming out of your pocket, of course, that is a disadvantage because we want to get money, but we don't want to spend it, not true? All right. So we're going to be moving on now to the final method of production, which is flow production. All right. So what is flow production? This production is organized so that different operations can be carried out one after the other in a continuous sequence. We're going to get into that. Another name for flow production is mass production. So at times in past paper questions, you will see flow production. Sometimes you will see mass production. They're the very same thing. All right, so please remember that. The main features are as follows. So when we talk about flow production, we're looking at large quantities being produced. So we're thinking about a lot of goods being produced at a given time. A standardized product is made that is all the same. So they're identical, right? So they're the very same thing. I have a picture here for BMW. Yeah, man, I heard the boys there, all right, because we're talking about cars now. All right, so why is it that we have a BMW here? For flow production, right? So for flow production, we're thinking about different operations, but we're carrying them out one after the other. So it's a continuous thing that we're looking at. So in building a car, right? I know that a lot of you know about these things for cars, right? So you want to ensure that you move from one stage to the other. So, right, you cannot put on the wheel before you do certain things, right? So you have to bear in mind the different things that you need to achieve in order to get the entire product, which is our lovely BMW right here, right? So you have to think about that. And for the car, we have a lot of cars here, right? So this is going to be flow instead of batch because we're thinking about the vast variety of the different vehicles that we have. All right, so that is why the car here, the motor vehicle, would indeed fall under flow production. The semi-skilled workforce is for flow production. I wonder why is it semi-skilled and not skilled? Anybody can tell me? Go ahead. All right, so it's semi-skilled because you don't really need that expertise from persons who are using machines. I wonder why. Because the machines would have already known what to do. So therefore, compared to job production, where you know, as a designer, you want to ensure that this is something that you know. So I'm not going to want to bring a dress to you for you to design for me if I know you cannot do it, right? So I would have seen the work that you would have carried out, so I know that you're very skilled at what you do, right? So that's for job, but for the flow production, you don't have to be overly skilled. So semi-skilled because, of course, you have to know about what you're doing. Just as if you're building a car, you have to know the different machines to use, the different equipment to use. So you want to ensure that for flow, you have your workers being semi-skilled, all right? Large amount of robotics, machinery, and equipment, as what we mentioned. So because we're looking at bulk, we're looking at more advanced goods now, so we want to ensure that we have the equipment, we have the machinery to basically do that job, all right? Large stocks of raw materials and component parts are required. So because of the type of job that you're doing, you want to ensure that you have all the raw materials, because without the raw materials, you're not gonna carry out the task. Your customer's probably not gonna be satisfied. So you want to ensure that before you even touch a job, you sort out all your raw materials that you would need to deliver. All right, so you have to bear that in mind. So remember now, for flow, it is a continuous sequence that you would follow. Widely used by companies that produce in bulk. Remember now, you're buying in bulk, right? You're making goods in bulk, of course. So we're looking here at an example. Soft drink companies or manufacturers of car parts, as what we mentioned earlier. So for all of these companies that you can think about, we're looking at flow production. So because this is a lot of goods now that you're producing in the factory, so it's gonna fall under flow production. So please bear that in mind. Vast amount of goods, flow production. Let us look at some advantages. Unit costs are reduced. Why do you think that the unit cost would be reduced? Because we're buying in bulk. Very good. So therefore, it's a case where you're buying, but we're going to look at economies of scale coming into play here. So you buying a lot of goods one time, you're going to be paying less, of course. So you're going to get a little discount. Well, not a little. You're going to get discount. So you're going to be spending less because you're buying a lot of items one time. The process can be highly automated, many operations carried out by robots and other types of machinery. So because you're looking at, bigger jobs, looking at motor vehicles and so forth, you want to ensure that it is not only human labor, right? You have your machines taking over. We have robots for this, where they're built to carry out certain tasks in the flow production. So you can, as I stated, it's not skilled but semi-skilled. So the machines are there, you're actually doing what you need to do to basically get the job done, but the machines are there to assist you then, right? Because we're looking at bigger tasks being completed. Quality systems can be built into production. So because this is flow production we're looking at vast variety of different goods. You want to ensure that you're giving quality, right? So because customers at the end of the day, they're number one, right? So you want to ensure that they're satisfied. So even though you're creating goods in bulk, a lot one time, you want to ensure that you're producing quality at the end of the day. All right, agree? Okay. So let us now look at some disadvantages. Setup costs are high. Why would setup costs be high? Yes, you have to think about all of those machines that you're going to be needing, all of the tools, right? The heavy-duty machines and so forth. They're not cheap. So therefore, you're going to have to spend a lot of money on these equipment. Product is standardized. So basically, for the item that you're producing, this is standardized to a particular way. All right, so that's what you're looking at, just to a particular way. You're looking at it like that. Worker motivation can be low. Why would the workers not be motivated? And you're looking at batch production, that would be the same disadvantage there. Let me hear. For job production, you have the persons loving what they do, but for batch and flow, they're somewhat similar. So therefore, you're going to have a repeat of the things that you need to do. So you're not going to be so enthused to carry out the job. You're going to get it done, of course, but based on you, the employee, you're not going to be motivated because it's not challenging for you. Whereas for job, you can be as creative as you want to be, but for batch and flow, it's going to be a little bit different because you're going to have to repeat processes because we're looking at processes for both batch and for flow. So the disadvantage for flow would have been the same. Worker motivation is going to be low. Breakdowns can prove costly. Breakdowns of what? You, the humans? What are they talking about? The machines, very good. So because we're thinking about producing goods in bulk, a lot of goods one time, you have to bear in mind that even though you're using machines, of course, at times when you're doing a task, don't you get tired? Of course, we as humans get tired. So therefore, we're looking at the machines. They can get tired as well. But guess what? For the machines to stop working, what do you think is going to happen? Work is going to be on pause right there. So I want to ensure that for the machines that you have, of course, you have the money to fix it if needs be. So if something should happen to one of the machine or the tools, you have the money to fix it so that the work won't just pause for a very long time. You're going to have to pause, of course, because without that machine, you're not going to get the work done. But you want to ensure that you have the money immediately to fix whatever problems, technical difficulties that you might have for those machines. So that's going to be a disadvantage because you're going to have to spend more money. And we don't want to do that, right? Supply may exceed demand. So because you're producing goods in bulk now, right, you're going to have a lot one time. However, customers change their mind. So if it is the case that you have a lot of goods being produced and you don't have the customers to buy it, what's going to happen? Yes, you're going to lose out, right? So you want to ensure that even though you're producing in bulk, you go back to the drawing board, you look at certain things, you make certain decisions, so that at the end of the day, you're not producing too much, all right? So you don't make a loss right there. So please bear that in mind for flow production. It is a continuous sequence, all right? Continuous sequence. We have another trivia here. Flow production means A, one-off production, B, I heard somebody say, no, miss, that's for job. You're paying attention. B, making similar goods in large numbers. C, the manufacturing of identical goods in vast numbers. And D, made in Europe. You're laughing. I wonder why they have that for a choice there. Made in Europe, right? So what's the answer for trivia number 3? Flow production. What is this? The answer is C. So the answer for flow production, this is the manufacturing of identical goods in vast numbers. Very good. So the answer here is C. I heard somebody ask, why couldn't it be B? They're similar because remember in multiple choice, you have 2 similar answers. So it's up to you now to know what is it that they're asking. So we're looking at large numbers versus vast numbers. So you know that vast is more. Right? So in bulk. So C would have been the appropriate answer. Very good though. At least you realize that the difference between B and C. Very good. We have a class activity here, right? I want you now to state which method of production each of the following falls under. We have craft goods. Would it be job, batch, or flow? Which one? Let me hear you. Job production, very good, because this is a unique product, one-off, and remember for one-off, we talk about job production. What about luxury cars? Job production as well, very good. What if, question, we have luxury cars here, but what, oh, we have motor vehicles on it, so we'll get to that. Newspaper, batch production, because we're doing this in batches, different batches. Furniture, batch as well. What about toys? Flow production. So for toys we have vast. So that is flow production. Motor vehicles. What is motor vehicles? Which one of the method of production? Because we look at luxury cars and we mentioned that it would have been job. But what about motor vehicles? Flow production. Very good. What's the difference though? Right? Luxury cars, motor vehicle. Luxury cars, we're talking about you wanting certain things to be customized. This is your vehicle, your dream car. So you want to ensure that whatever you want, you get. So luxury car would fall under job production, whereas motor vehicles would fall under flow production. Awesome. Bread, batch production, and we did that in the question, in other questions earlier. All right. So those are some examples of job, batch, and flow production. Class activity number 2. Which method of production is the most time consuming? Which one do you think? Job, of course, because you're going to have to put more work into it. Which method of production allows you to charge the cheapest price? Flow production, buying in bulk. Which method of production uses highly skilled workers? Job production again, very good because it's customized. Which method of production allows you to change the flavor, design of the product? Which one? Batch. We talk about the brown bread versus the white bread. Which type of production is being described? Where items are made individually. Very good. Job production. Again, you guys are listening, man. Awesome. So we're going to look at the recap now. Job production is used when a single product is produced to meet individual specifications. So please remember that it's a one-off. Batch production method allows a group of products to undergo a production process at the same time. Flow production method uses a series of repetitive processes to produce standardized products. And finally, some businesses, they may use a combination of both job, batch, or flow. All right?